Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Vanguard Tactics. I'm Stephen Box, and if you're interested in Warhammer 40k, then you're in the right place because every single day at 6 p.m. I go live to answer your 40k related questions. Now, one announcement that I do have to say before we kick off is that I think I am going to start to take weekends off from doing the lives. So I'll only be doing lives Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. It's been an absolute blast doing the lives every single day, but now we're getting back in the studio. It just means I can have some downtime and, time to myself to switch off from all things 40k to get that kind of work-life balance, which, as you know, I'm a big proponent of health, emotional and mental and physical health, and also making sure that I respect that for myself is also one thing I need to do. So that is obviously going to be going forward. I will be taking weekends off, but that's okay. And I hope everyone in the chat is doing well. So if you're new to the channel, we do take a little bit more of a competitive mind or competitive focus to the content that we talk about in the way that we look at and analyze things. And it's my mission to help you become a better 40k player. Now, obviously, 9th edition is on the horizon. So some big changes coming up, and yesterday, if you haven't done so, or if you're not aware, that GW did a live Q&A to cover exactly what is expected to come out in 9th edition. Now, I have made a video that will be going out on I've made a video that will be going out. I just need to edit it basically. All things 9th edition, what we know so far. So it's a super concise video on all things 9th. Yeah, but obviously we can chat and talk about that today. So I'd love to know if you're excited about 9th edition. What is it that's making, you feel like, okay, I really want to get stuck into that now? Or is there anything that you're apprehensive about? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. So who have we got in the chat? We've got Jack, Dave, Primali, Andy, Brian, Rich Kilton. How you doing, Rich? Hope you have listened to our podcast. It went out yesterday. Sorry it took me a little bit extra time. Had some editing issues, so had to sort all that out. But obviously, fantastic feedback so far on the podcast you and I did. And I still need to get that on YouTube as well. So I'll probably do that tomorrow. I expect I'll get that up there. So what have we got here? By the way, it's super hot in this studio. We're getting air conditioning installed, so hopefully I won't look so like red-faced. It isn't a tan. It is literally just I am so hot at the moment, and it's so hot in England, which is really odd. Yeah, really, really strange to have such incredible weather at this time. But anyway, all good. Can't complain. So I'm just very, very hot at the moment. Okay, so what have we got here? Andy said, can you go over the true line of sight rules they're going with in 9th? So I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play, but I feel like terrain now will just say exactly, this blocks line of sight, similar to maybe how bottom levels block line of sight in the ITC. So I'm sure we'll see something like that happen now. So maybe all ruins completely block line of sight, something like that. So we'll see if there's, when we look at those keywords, or maybe it's going to be similar to previous editions where if you're completely or so far into a wood, then you can't be seen and you will be obscured. So, that would be super easy at the tabletop to say, okay, cool, I'm, 4 inches behind this wood, just so I'm blocked by line of sight. Cool, agree, yeah, absolutely. You can play with that intent, and I think that's what we're going to start to see going forward, which will be cool. Brian said, what is the top preventative care most I/I over A psych professionals are getting behind right now? I'm not sure what you mean, Brian. You've lost me. You've lost me, Brian. Manic Stations, hey Stephen. Mr. Hatch, excited for the night. Razel, how you doing? JP Wargaming, feeling like 9th is going to be good for salamanders. Yeah, I think 9th is going to be good for everyone in their own way. So I think that's going to be fantastic. Wayne's loving the command points are linked to points, limits and missions. Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be good. I just hope the armies that really need CPs, that really rely on CPs because they don't have the ultra powerful units built in their points, still get enough CPs to do what they do best. Like orcs, for example, need a lot of CPs because they're a very CP hungry engine. So yeah, it's going to be I think there's a balance to be struck there. Do you think there'll be less soup since it will cost CP? I'm excited about pure custodes and some actual CP. I mean, yeah, I think, you know me guys, I'm an advocate for pure faction armies anyway. I think it's cooler. I mean, there's a couple of exceptions like Deathwatch and stuff, which are kind of an ally anyway. That's always, you know, there's loads of stories about them, you know, coming in to support Imperial Guardsmen against the Necrons or whatever. So there are maybe certain factions which could be immune to that. I don't know. That could be interesting. So yeah, but hopefully encourage people to take mono build armies, which will be great. I think it'll be good. Hey Stephen, what do you think about the fact that they limit the +1, -1 new editions? I'm a bit salty as a Chaos player. So do not be salty, okay? The guys at GW would not have just made, you know, there will be some builds that are unplayable, right? There'll be, or not unplayable, there are some builds that won't be as competitive as they are currently, all right? However, here's my predictions, and when you watch the video that I've made, I think there's going to be things like, if you move with a heavy weapon, then you can't shoot it. Or maybe you can only hit on a 6 if you fire with a heavy weapon, unless you've got a rule like the Iron Hands where turn 1, they can move without the penalties of that. So I think we're going to see some sort of rules interactions like that, which would then balance out the whole kind of, you know, like, otherwise you'd be able to move with a heavy weapon and shoot a -1 to hit, let's say, flyer, and it'd be no different if you were shooting anything else because you moved and you're at -1 to hit. So there could be something in regards to how heavy weapons fire, which means that either you've got to stay stationary or you just hit on 6s. So that's my prediction anyway. Which means that if units do want to stand still and fire, then they're going to be less maneuverable. So they're sacrificing the board versus damage output, which I think then makes a really good tactical decision, which is why it's not a bad shout to do it in that way. Or it means that you've got to move into position and then fire the next turn. So it actually means you've got to think ahead of where you want to be and when you want to fire. So that might work. Let me know what you think to that prediction, guys. Robert said, the only thing I'm wondering about our battalions... oh, wow, there's loads of... Wow, it's very hot on the questions today. The only thing I'm worried about is our battalions as CP is now even. I'm curious as to what they'll do. What do you think? So I think the detachments will still be a thing, but you can spend CPs to give that detachment a benefit. Okay, so like we've seen with formations, in like Vigilus Defiant, Vigilus Ablaze, you pay a CP to get that detachment, and I think that's what we'll continue to see going forward. So maybe you can spend like, I don't know, 2 CPs and put that entire detachment in reserve or something. I don't know. Or 2 CPs and that detachment ignores cover. I don't know. Whatever. There could be some sort of like inbuilt sideboard tactical flexibility. So that's what we might see for those detachments. Is Soup dead in 9th? Maybe. It might well be dead. I don't really like Soup in anyway, so for me it was kind of already off the menu. David Ambrose, are you going to take troops excluding troops again? It depends. Maybe troops get really cheap now. Yeah, so maybe the points cost of troops comes down. So it means that, you know, they're still going to have a useful role on the battlefield, like screening, holding objectives, whatever it might be. So they could have some rules interactions like that. Obviously, some armies still really do well with troops, like Genestealer Cult troops are great, Harlequin troops are great, you know, Intercessors are great. What else are amazing troops? Like Tyrannid Genestealers. I'm sure the new Necron Warriors will be good. So there's going to be plenty of use for those, no doubt. Thomas has said, hey Stephen, I have a fitness question for you if that's okay. Is it better to work out in a fasted or fed state for fat loss? Okay, so Thomas, if you wanted to save money, okay, is it better to spend that money in the morning or in the evening? If you were to spend the same amount of money, that's my question to you guys. So you're going to spend $10. Is it better to spend it in the morning or in the evening? Answer is, it makes no difference. So if you train fasted, you will use more fatty acids that's in the bloodstream during a fasted training session. However, that means you'll use more carbohydrates later on in the day. If you train fed, you'll use more carbohydrates, but then you'll use more fatty acids later on in the day. So it makes no difference. And actually training fed makes your workout feel easier. So you'll probably burn a few more calories because you'll be like, yeah, this is good, loving life, you know, pumping some iron, whatever. Whereas when you're fasted, you're like, oh, this feels hard, it feels heavy, you know, the motivation's not there. So yeah, train fed basically, but monitor your calories if you want to lose weight. Rizal said, I think I'm most concerned over the changes to command points, as it seems like battalions will be unnecessary. What happens to your troops' usefulness, your thoughts? Again, I think they'll have some other sort of role on the battlefield that, you know, people certainly utilise. It could be just, they're just cheap. So it just, you know, changes the point spectrum between our elite units and our troop choices. JP Wargaming, here, hoping the Gravis guys that looks like Melter are multiple shots. I don't care if they are high strength, the Salamers make up for that. Yeah, that sounds good. Manic Station said, my question for you, you're always talked about armies you like, but what armies would you be less likely to take because of playstyle or little or no interest in them? Good question. So for me, again, this is my personal view. I don't like the Death Guard aesthetic. I don't like the way the models look for Death Guard personally. It doesn't really appeal to me. I don't like all the bobbly gooiness. I like cleaner lines. I also struggle with demons as well. I don't really like that. For me, I struggle to really get the sense of their purpose in that. It's just me. It's just something that doesn't quite click really there. Although I really like some of the demon rules, so I'd be tempted to play by that. The Gene Stealer cult aesthetic, I'm neutral about. Like, I like the aberrants, I love the bikes, not so much of a fan of the acolytes, although I really like the acolyte rules. So there's that sort of internal debate there. Yeah, so Death Guard for me, not something, to be honest, before wasn't really interested in Necrons, but now seeing the new models, certainly interested, to say the least. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it depends on the models, right? Manic Stations, my question for you, okay, yeah, I've just answered that one. Ooh, it's hot. It's so hot today. Calendestines, if you could, would you look at Valrak's feet? Not really sure what that means. Not really sure what that means. Do you think troops will have a place in 9th? Sorry if you've answered this already. Yeah, I think so, but it will just be a little bit different to what they currently do for us. So it could just be super cheap, and maybe they're just focused really on objective holding. Or maybe the mission pack kind of requires you to have troops to help you score a lot better. Brian's made some nice comments as well. JW, Stephen with the captain minus it hit. Is Chaos Space Marine dead? Alpha Legion Assault armies in particular. Are they dead? No, I don't think so. Because if terrain gets better, then it counters that. Like if you've got better terrain, and like you've seen with the VT terrain that we've produced, you know, to help competitive play games, I would happily take Alpha Legion on this table because I can use the cover really well. So I don't think so. It just operates a little bit different. Manic Stations, Carol, to my question, do you think 9th will change this? About the armies. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to be interested in playing Death Guard. Like I said, Necrons I'm very interested in just because I love the new models, yeah. But like I said, I wasn't before. Admech troops, yeah, destroyers. How could I forget about them? Yeah, great shout, Brian. Callie killed Nox Gaming. From what we've seen of Knights so far, do you think it's a positive or negative for Blood Angels? I think it's like, I'm kind of neutral about the Blood Angels, actually. I still think they're strong. Everything I've seen so far doesn't look like it's going to hurt them. If they change Overwatch, then great, that helps the Blood Angels a little bit more. If people can put units in reserves, actually that helps the Blood Angels a bit more to get that forward pressure. So yeah, I actually think it's going to be a good thing for Blood Angels, definitely. Especially if tables now have balance to them. So if GW are going to put visuals out of how terrain should look, then yeah, I think that definitely helps Blood Angels players. So you're not going to turn up to the table and being like, oh, there's no terrain, cool, I lose then. At least you know you've got a good fighting chance from the beginning. Chap Dev, troop removal for Ninth. Space Marine player I know is trying to design the most broken thing he can. I'm just trying to work how many Shining Spears I'll have the willpower to build for Yanari. Well, I mean, somebody can like try and make the most broken thing he can, but we don't know what 9th edition is going to bring yet. So it's completely, utterly pointless trying to do that. And also trying to like make the most broken thing you can. To be honest, I would say to that person, try and get better at the game rather than just trying to take a broken army list, right? Otherwise, where's the satisfaction? I prefer using non-broken armies and doing well with them, like the Blood Angels, right? How can I make my stamp with the Blood Angels? How can I make my stamp with the Death Watch? How can I make my stamp with Wraith Blades? You know, I would much rather do that and then, oh, look at that. Chapter approved, we just made them cheaper. Cool, brilliant. That's what I prefer to do because I get much more satisfaction. Same was why I'm enjoying Harlequins at the moment. They're, you know, an underperforming faction and very, very fragile, extremely rewarding when you do well with that army. So, yeah, and super fun to play. JW, I'm still going to bring troops in my scars. Playing armies without troops doesn't feel like an army in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely, I would agree to that. Yeah, Andy said, I do not enjoy training fasted. I don't feel, yeah, exactly. Do you think that vehicles shooting into combat will make combat armies harder? No, I just think it balances things out a little bit, as it's either all or nothing. You've either got the fly keyword and you fall back and shoot normally, or you don't have the fly keyword and you're completely penalised. So a middle ground would be nice there. I would much rather a middle ground. So if I'm playing against like Eldar tanks, it's harder for them to fall back, or if they do fall back and still shoot, maybe they're a -1 or something. That I would like to see. Versus if I'm playing guard, I know I just win as a Blood Angel player, as long as I get a wrap off. So it's rather than the game being, oh, can I get a wrap off? Or I don't want to think like that. I want to be able to think in a more balanced overall way. So will it make combat harder? I don't think so, because GW would have thought about that and they would have balanced it out in other ways. Do you think the point value of the ITC will change now in the new edition? I doubt it. People love 2,000 points. Yeah. Evening, a bit off topic, but I found your channel through the interview you did with D6 Gaming about a year ago. Have you done any other interviews with any other channels that aren't on the channel? Yeah, Luke. So basically, I have done about 3 interviews now with Forge the Narrative podcast with legendary Paul Murphy. So he's had me on a few times to talk about Blood Angels. And then last night I came on his show to talk about 9th edition. So when that podcast gets released, that'll be out. I did another segment. I've done a couple of segments with 40k today. One of the segments was how I've become a better player and what it takes to become a good player, because I talk about the fact that I'm not talented at this game. I just work very, very hard. Yeah, and I tell you my story behind that. Another one, I talk a lot about mental health as well, and what it means to me, because every single month I donate money from Vanguard Tactics to Movember, which is a charity here in the UK that helps, you know, essentially prevent male suicide rates and things, and, you know, really supports men's mental and physical health. So every single month I donate a portion, depending on how many students we have on the academy. I donate $1 per student from a given time point. So yeah, that's you know, a really big passion of mine, so it was nice to talk about that. What else? And then I've done interviews with Glasshammer Gaming, Art of War. I've done a long podcast with those guys, Nick and John, who are good friends of ours. So yeah, all good. So, you know, check out those podcasts definitely if you want to hear more of my, you know, interview or where I've been interviewed, whatever. Demeep has said, don't forget to push the like so more people can find Stephen and his appease the algorithm. Yeah, you know, do you know what? I love it when you guys, you know, support the channel. I really do. Do I do this for likes? No, but like Demeep said there, it does help the algorithm of YouTube, help push more people to find my content. Hopefully you get from me a real honest and kind of like balanced viewpoint. I will, you know, think in a very balanced way, I hope. Obviously we've got a few little biases here and there, but yeah, and also I play the game a lot, so I'm kind of speaking from experience in when I'm, you know, coaching what other people have also found useful. So do I do it for likes? Not really, but I do it for your engagement. So I'd much rather you guys drop a comment because then I can see that I've got engaged listeners. But obviously likes and subscribes stuff all helps as well. So appreciate that. Chaos Custodes, somebody said, rule of 2. Yeah, could do that. Brian, rule of 2, eh? Maybe. Rule of 2, maybe? Do you think, someone's asked, do I think Necrons, is it going to be competitive? Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're going to see some good stuff from the Necrons. I've missed loads of questions here. Brian said, I remember the days when I'd message you on Facebook during the live just to get noticed. Brian, you're always noticed, mate. You know it. Wayne said, what do you think of always hitting on 6s? Will Orc players feel bad about sharing this rule? Nah, because they'll get loads of other good stuff, I'm sure. I think they probably tested it out with Orcs anyway. I don't know if Rule of 2 will come in though. Doesn't feel right. 3 feels good, you know. Right, okay, cool. I'm going to leave that there, guys, because I've been 20 odd minutes and I need to go home and get some rest before tomorrow. I've got a big day tomorrow. I've got loads of editing to do. So, guys, I'm going to leave this here and make sure you check out that video when it comes out. Make sure you check out the podcast as well. It's on all the channels that me and Rich did. And I'll try and chuck that up on YouTube as well when I get the internet speed at home. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a lovely evening or day, whatever time zone you're in. And if not, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And I think tomorrow I'll probably be back with Joe. So until then, take care and I'll see you later.